Welcome everybody. This is episode 10 of the chat show, Becoming Influential, the chat show for modern marketers. Really great to see you all here. Can't wait to chat with you tonight. Tonight we're going to be just riffing all things leadership and community on the back of our retreat that we had this past weekend. You're going to be hearing from leaders like Alice Nichols, Adish and Santoshi, and we have a special guest, Chantel Hutnam, with us tonight. So I'm looking forward to hearing from her. So I'll let you guys just unmute and let's riff away while I let in some more of the people waiting in the waiting room. Hey, Chantel, go.
Okay, so leadership.
Yeah.
How good was it to be back together? I think that was just such a huge thing that all of our hearts needed. It was a little bit overwhelming just to kind of be in the same room and kind of feel that connection again. And it's definitely reminded me of the importance of like live face-to-face human connection and getting back to doing coming together and bringing people back together. That's been a huge thing that I think I'm an introvert, so I thought I was pretty good with the Zoom and the online stuff, but I really did miss actually connecting in person. So I've already got some workshops scheduled with some of my community that I haven't been able to travel to, so Melbourne and Brisbane, and yeah, just the importance of that touch and connection is huge.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback that if I can, and because Chantel mentions the word introvert in there, and I feel like it's really important to recognize that regardless of how we kind of see ourselves as introverts or extroverted introverts, which I think a lot of us would see ourselves are, human beings are animals who thrive in community. And I really feel that the longer we've spent behind desks and phones and screens over the last few years, we can actually unconsciously get stuck in this trap of telling ourselves that we're more introverted than we actually require for true love, connection, and community. And it's not until you're back in that space that you feel so much more fulfilled. And I think, you know, speaking to myself and my experience, because I would call myself an extroverted introvert, it's about boundaries as well. You know, when it comes to things like leadership, I don't know if anyone understands how much you can pack in a very brief time. I know even when Spencer got up on stage on the second day, he goes, at the start of the week, we were talking about, and we're like, Spencer, that was 24 hours ago. And I myself make decisions of what extra curricular things I'm going to go to so that I can show up to those days and the kind of mornings or evenings really powerfully and remember how important it is to connect with community. And it's so important. I actually challenge, when it comes to events like this, I really challenge the story that a lot of us have about how introverted we are and how events aren't for us. I feel like energetically, it is so incredibly buoying to be in those spaces with other people who have, you know, we have so much similarities in visions. And I shared in my chat when I was up with Spencer on stage that I had been having a bit of a time in my back office the day before we'd been going, where I was feeling quite overwhelmed by the mundane technical side of the business. And then as soon as my friend Jess, who's a cross line of mine, arrived at my house and we got in the car to drive down to the Gold Coast, I was like, I love this. I love being with women and riffing on this. And it shifted so fast. And so I think for anyone who holds themselves back from events and calls themselves an introvert and says it's not for them, your cells need to be in community. They want to be meeting with other humans. That's the type of animal you are. That was a lot, but that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, it's so true. And it's more about that deeper connection and finding those different ways of, meeting your community, I guess, where they're at as well. And so creating different spaces that allow people just to feel seen and come together and have that experience. And I think, people are so craving that sense of community, and it's been, these things, it's great, but there's a whole nother level of and especially the physical touch element, like the hugs and the actual, like when Emily grabs your hand and she really holds it, and you know, all of those things. Like for our product, it's still a touch product. Like being able to actually do that experience with people is something that I've definitely missed that.
Yeah, those things are super critical. I think you know, there's lots of people who identify as different things when it comes to I'm introverted, I'm extroverted, or I'm an introverted extrovert, or I'm an extroverted introvert, or whatever it is that you feel that you are. I think that the recipe for success with this is show up because we are pack animals. And then when you're in the space, be mindful of what you need and create space if you need it. You know, I know that when we go to things like leadership, I am all up for everything, every minute till the end. And I will say that my event stamina has taken a hit, and I wasn't, by the end of it, I was kind of, you know, crash day, which I don't normally have after it. I'm normally just like, you know, so inspired and pumped, but maybe I got people out. But Vanessa doesn't do that when we go. She loves being with the people and connecting with everybody, but she won't go to everything or rush to the next thing, whatever it is. She'll go, you know what, I'm not going to make this one. And I know I've witnessed this from and learnt this from two great leaders that are on this call with us, in Adish and Santoshi, and I've watched them all the years that they've taken us first to leadership in the States. They've kind of chaperoned us over there as our guides and parents on the journey, and then throughout different conventions and things. And they are very mindful of their energy and where it's at. And if they need to disappear out and take a couple of hours, they might miss something. But you know what? They serve themselves better when they do it. So I agree. It's something we need to look after, but my greatest encouragement is to come and be there. You know, the biggest companies in the world all still have face-to-face leadership retreats and conventions, and with all the technology we've got, there's something that you just cannot transmit through Zoom that you get. You're there in person, and it's the spaces in between. What about all those chats in the hallway and the in the coffee line, or in the healing hands line that I was stuck in for ages, waiting to buy all my healing hand stuff. We all have those moments, so it's important that we do them, and they're the things that we take away, those connections, and to rekindle those. And Chantel, I think you had one of those moments that hit you when you were on this last weekend away.
Yeah, well, I was having lunch with Alice and a couple of the other guys, and I was nervous to ask Emily for a photo, but I caught her on the way out, and she kind of, I actually don't even know what happened there to get her attention, but she came over and she sort of like, she embraced me straight away. So we hugged straight away. And then she sort of like took a moment, she looked at me and she was like, Chantel, and she was like, practitioner, women's health, and just pulled these things together. And I've actually never met Emily before, ever. And so it was like, I think I looked at Alice and I was like, have you spoken to her or something? So I think there was just, and I still don't know, to be honest, how Emily does that. But I think just through maybe like social Instagram and those things, or I don't even know, I still don't know. But she, I guess in that moment, like when you acknowledge someone by name and you remember something about that person, like the ability to make someone feel special, like talk about her being an example of really seeing another human being and elevating that. And I think that is a part of leadership. It's about seeing somebody and acknowledging their gift, or acknowledging a gift about them or something about them, and being able to kind of, lift their day and make them feel special. And that was, I came home to my husband. Alice messaged me and she's like, how cool is that? And so it was just one of those little things that it's really nice to be recognized and acknowledged. And that's something that I have to remember also to always, do with our leaders, but with all humans, to be honest. Everybody has those moments where when you acknowledge something and you remember something, it, even with your customers, so important, just, asking how their child is by name, or those small things.
It's so huge. And, I'll just put in the chat, how many wellness advocates, how many people are in our community are there? Well, it's about 13 million something odd now at the moment. So to be remembered, that just you must feel so special when you have that moment, because you're recognized. I feel like that when I remember our children's names and things like that. How do you remember all that?
Yeah.
Just like, because, you know, no one's more important to us than our children, but someone that's kind of removed from us that we haven't seen in person for years rolls up and says, by the way, how's so-and-so going? And it's like, wow, like we have not been forgotten. You know,
Yes.
we are part of that. We're part of their lives, and you know what they say when they say things like, you know, we see you and we hear you, they mean it. And you know, it's incalculable the difference that makes when you feel that, when you get to be around those people and go to those spaces. So yeah, awesome. Al, you just admitted.
I also wanted to probably call out something that I think a lot of people would have noticed, women in particular in the space, which is that when we are, like, we witness people on Instagram or whatever living their lives and sharing doTERRA, but it's not until you put us in a face-to-face experience back in that live environment that you're seeing women with their families there at the leadership events. And for anyone who's been at a convention when we had, you know, 5,000 people at Sydney Convention Centre, where we would literally have, like, you'd walk up the stairs and there would be a mother's section where there would be 50 women basically rocking back and forth, doing the rock, you know, with their babies strapped to their chest or in a pram. It was beautiful to see mums and dads with their little ones there at the event and just know how welcoming and welcomed they are as well. And, you know, Courtney Dow, who I work with, obviously she's got a 2-week-old baby. And I think, honestly, if he had been 1 more week old, she would have tried to get there. But seeing Amy Innes there, who, you know, when I joined doTERRA just over 6 years ago, she had her firstborn child strapped to her chest at the first leadership event I went to. And then 3 years later, she had her second child strapped to her chest at that leadership event. And now to see her third little baby daughter there strapped to her chest, it's such a beautiful cycle that we can see these women who are growing their families, growing their business, and showing up in that way. And it's just so, it's so special that you know, doTERRA is so welcoming for people in different stages of their life, but that these people keep coming back to something that's enriching them through the cycles of their life as well. It's really special. And I love that about doTERRA.
And how awesome that, you know, she gets to engage in a career and get forward momentum and forward steps in that career, albeit at different paces throughout those last 6 years because of when the children have come and those kind of things. But she's been able to have something that she can, when she has a little bit extra time, she can, you know, sink her teeth into it and go for it, instead of having to just be out of the workforce or out of that sort of you know, part of life that as adults we still crave it, but for mothers oftentimes it's kind of put on hold when you have babies, and it's, you know, you're outside of that environment, which is great. Hey, I wanted to touch on another thing that I was inspired by at leadership, and I started with our team last night. So we're doing this for the month, and I kind of want to encourage you guys to maybe think about this, and maybe it's something you might want to just do in your own groups. But Spencer Muse ran a little panel on the concept of recognition and how that happens. And I was reflecting on it at the end of that panel, and I thought, you know, how much we have sort of almost, well, I'll speak for ourselves. In my team and in my business, I have found myself being so much less active in that arena than I once was, and maybe it's because we haven't seen each other, or maybe we haven't had as much to celebrate, or whatever it is, and we've all been lost and focused on all the individual challenges that we've all faced in life, as this interesting period in history has been something we've all had to navigate. But that concept of recognition, and as Chantel felt before when Emily reached out and just recognized her and knew who she was and gave her a hug. And I thought people need that, and we can be the ones to do that. So we've started challenging our team this month, where every day for the rest of August, we're going to reach out to somebody in our teams, whether it's just to recognize them as being a great customer, you know, someone who purchases regularly, even if it's 20 PV or whatever it is, or maybe it's a leader you haven't spoken to in ages, but every single day, someone different. Our leaders are choosing into this program to be able to reach out and just make someone feel what Chantel felt in that moment. So that's something that we're looking forward to doing. It's something that I just took away from leadership, and I thought, well, how do we take that back, and how, you know, what we felt from that? How do we take that back, and how do we let that spill over into our communities and touch the people that we care for, and maybe the ones that we haven't seen for quite some time, and And how do we invite them back into this space, and how do we give them just a little touch of what being there made us feel? Because you go there and you hear things, but more important than that, I think, is how you go away feeling. And I left feeling like my cup was running over. I felt like I had more energy than I've had in a long time. I felt inspired to act on lots of different fronts. So my mind's racing now, like all these things that I want to be doing over the next few months. It's kind of like, okay, discernment is going to be critical now, because if you just do everything not too good and throw it all out there. So it's how do I want to act? What things am I going to do? But I want to find a way that we can kind of share that with our communities that for lots of reasons maybe weren't able to be there in person, but it was definitely a great step back for me.
Yeah, that was a huge takeaway for me as well, the recognition piece. And talk about even just like reconnecting with people within your community or other leaders. Maybe that's an entry point just for that reconnection piece of actually building the relationship back again, because there might be those relationships where we feel maybe they haven't, over the 3 years, everyone's had to kind of dig deep and do different things in their lives in order to continue on. So I think that recognition piece of just actually reaching out and thanking them for being a customer, whether it's your loyalty rewards order people. I know that's a huge thing for me. It's been, it's sustained the business really, so acknowledging those people and actually just sort of, giving that piece of acknowledgement is huge for relationships. It's what builds relationships as well.
Yeah, personally, it's been really interesting because I know we talk about seasons and, 6 years is a long time, and I've definitely had seasons as well. And I've been chatting with my husband a lot about doTERRA and the business, because he lives with me, sees me in these seasons. And he was the first person that recognized that even though I had a lot of different things happening at the time, that this was the first business that I was just, really engaged with, like really, really engaged with. And I've never been with a business as long as I have with doTERRA. And I honestly can't see myself not working with this business at some capacity. But I think I got into this habit, particularly over the last few years, of feeling like it was going to be residual without my inspiration. I thought I could manage or lead. I thought I could manage from behind the scenes and still see business growth. And I am not like, I'm not a people manager, and I don't have employees, and none of us are employees at doTERRA, and we're not our downlines employees either. And so what I can do really well is I can inspire when I'm doing the work. The way that I lead best is actually if I'm in action, and that's got to be public action. Like, people need to be seeing that. And so for me, leadership gave me this renewed, in fact, it was coming before then. I think leadership was just that perfect cherry on top of just feeling this renewed vigor for prolifically sharing my processes with doTERRA, not just the value of the oils, but, when my business was in its own hyper growth, I was sharing the value of the oils, which I believe in with all of my heart. But I was also sharing how things were going behind the scenes. And that's where I'm at now. And leadership's renewed that as well. And what I love about doTERRA, and I share this with people all the time, come to these calls, because unlike other businesses, there is nothing that we would say in a space like this that we wouldn't say in a public forum, which is why we share this Zoom link to any person and their dog, basically, because you can come and sit here and we would be proud to be speaking about the things that we're speaking about and speaking about business the way that we lead business. And leadership really did that for me. It took me back to, I've got classes coming up, first of all, so face-to-face classes for members of my team, which is with members of my team, I should say, because this will surprise people, but I still feel like a newborn giving a class. Like, I still talk too rapidly, which is, my thing. And I'm like, it's going to be better if you teach it. Like, I'll say that to someone new, and I can sit there and I can edify you and I can chat about personal experience. But, if you want to really get tired and fatigued hearing things, I will keep going, as you can tell. So I think the beauty of doTERRA is that I feel like when we can see not just the power of the essential oils, but we see someone who's really proud of sharing the business and the business model actually in conjunction with that. I feel like that's almost more powerful from an oils customer experience. I do feel like that's more powerful from a customer oils experience. I accidentally posted some really non-compliant stories yesterday, which people may have noticed. No one messaged me about it, but I forgot that I wasn't allowed to give testimonials on the TGA approved products, and I was using deep blue polyphenols, and I wanted to chat about Alpha CRS, and I've completely just lost my train of thought because my dog's just decided he wants to go outside, and so I'm going to hand it over because it'll come to me and then I'll...
All right, well, you can butt in, Al, and you just steal it back off.
I will not butt in because I'll keep talking. You guys.
Look, it's awesome to, you know, get those feelings. I think one thing, and I'm going to kind of ask Adish and Santoshi to weigh in here, but you know, in my experience, and I hear this term passive, you know, or passive income and those kind of things, and I don't think that doTERRA business lends itself to that at all. I think it has a residual component, and that the residual component doesn't keep going up unless we show up. Okay, and I think when we start to step out, then the residual component is impacted at some level, some way, shape, or form. But it's great that it does continue to take care of us for a little while, for the love and care that we gave it up until the time that we needed to step back a little for a little moment, whatever that reason might be for that moment. But to Alice's point of, you know, she does it best when she shows up and she's active in the business doing the thing. And that she might not want to be the complete source all the time and be owned by her business. I think that leaders bring a certain DNA to their teams. And when that DNA is kind of maybe not as present in one way, shape, or form, then all of the cells are confused about what to do. Mm. And then when we bring the DNA back, it's like all the cells all of a sudden are all like lining up to form, you know, chemicals which, you know, partner together to form tissues, which partner together to form systems in our body, and then all of a sudden, you know, magic happens, and you've got something that, you know, this machine that's running and just doing amazing things and impacting the world in amazing ways like we used to. Adish and Santoshi, you've been to more leaderships, more conventions, more everything around the world than anybody in this business here in Australia, I'm sure. You've been in this a long time. You've got team in Europe, you've got team in the US, you've got people, you go to all these things. Tell us how you felt coming out of this most recent retreat we had last weekend.
Oh, I think if I could, I'd love to just sort of bleep, bleep, incredible. It was just like so amazing. I think one of our gifts is community, funny enough. We've come from a background of community, so it's very important that when we partnered with doTERRA, we needed to feel that there was a community here. And as soon as we met the owners, you know, 12 years ago, and we saw how we celebrated at conventions, I turned around to Adish and I just said at the gala, and I said to him, I found my community again. And we've been in this community ever since. And even through the lockdown, and we always made sure we somehow created that feeling of community or being together. But during this last leadership retreat, you know, I just sort of ditto Alice, ditto Chantel, ditto Paul, because I love my love language. Part of my love language is giving gifts. And so, you know, Paul and Vanessa and Adish and I, we put these breakfasts on for the team, and we always have our bag of oils. And it's just so exciting to watch the eyes lit up, because we just started it from the before leadership starts. So we have our breakfast, we stand there at the door, we say hi to everyone, we hug everyone, let them choose their oil, and it's already started, leadership started. And it's just the most incredible feeling for me. And I know for Paul, I know for Adish, it's just, everyone just loves it. Everyone lights up. And then that just runs and runs right through leadership. And so we're forever giving through leadership. And that's the dance, I think, within doTERRA, that you actually just dance the dance, and you grow these muscles when you're at convention or leadership, and they're just so important. And so, yeah, I think our muscles had grown a little bit more since when we went to this leadership, because we'd been in the European convention. So we had 5,000 people there to play with and get ready for our leadership here. So we were already sort of geared up for it. But it's just, we're just great. I'm grateful. I'm just extremely grateful. Adish is a bit different.
Yeah, what about you, Adish?
I'm different. Quickly to Marie. I know she is from Germany. She's in our team.
Oh, that's
I
better.
love you. Good to see you here on the chat. So that's awesome. So we reached even further than Australia. For me, I can agree with Paul. It's there is some residual income, but there's not passive income. The truth is, the moment you don't put any energy in it, it goes down, right? At our level, it's not, you know, we could probably completely stop, and we are at the age where normal people would retire. But man, whenever I come to convention or leadership, the amount of people I'm meeting there and I have made friends with or make new friends, this is just incredible. And we set so much into motion over the last 12 years, and don't want to talk myself high, but we know so many people and they look at us and they're happy to see us. And it's like Santoshi said, it's giving, but we receive so much love from you guys and from all the people we are meeting. And every meeting is special when you are present with that person in that moment. And that is my continuous goal when I go to these events. So actually, physically, I have to train for myself because my nervous system is pretty, you know, fragile, and I get overwhelmed quick. And Santoshi knows now, before I'm doing more fitness, so for the 2-3 days or whatever, how long it goes, I can be with people and I can be present with them. I can share myself, I can listen to them. And these connections, they are, you know, they are so special, and that is my motivation why I continue doing this. Obviously, there is so much good learning as well. There's fantastic learnings which we had now on leadership, and there's always something. Sometimes I find myself going like, I'm getting a little bit tired. I had that person before, and I just have to slap myself and wake myself up and says like, no, this person also needs to be listened to in your full attention, because if you drop, then everybody else around you might be affected as well, and they drop as well. It's an energy thing, right? So for me, leadership is something where I put my heart out. I must admit, I crash a little bit afterwards, always, but I don't give myself a hard time. And then it's kind of like, there's so much information, so many new impulses, people, ideas, and things, and this all has to settle a little bit, right? So I can sort it out. So I cannot go on like a machine, bang, 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 bang. But I can say for myself, everything's being confirmed. I love the doTERRA corporate team. They're incredible. The connections even have become deeper with them, to kind of like talk with personal stuff together and sitting there and just chatting relaxed and, you know, having a human conversation. And that's special, and that's what you could do at convention. Their intention, it's like you feel they're wholehearted in it, and they also want to really wholehearted partner with us and help us in whatever way they can. So that's one of the biggest highlights of this connection even deepened. And for me, that is like that's like a new beginnings, really.
Yeah.
And it's completely exciting. And I better shut up, otherwise I keep talking.
No, you're welcome to go. You're welcome to go. You know, I tell you what, one thing I did experience at leadership was this new wave of youth and professionalism and just awesome people that corporate has gathered together as a team. I love Janice Li Fu, I think it is, and Jess Waite, amazing. Caro, who's heading up our Healing Hands. I mean, just quality across the board. Tian, all these young people. There's just this real youthful exuberance and this energy that they have, but they're actually really, really quality pros in their field. It's like, you know, I feel really good and safe with whose hands are on the wheel in all the different departments now. That feels amazing. Chantal, we haven't had for a little bit. We're all kind of jumping around. You get in.
Yeah, well, I actually agree with that as well, in terms of like, it felt like there was like a rawness and an honesty at leadership, like it from everyone, from like corporate to the leaders that spoke, to everyone that was there. It actually felt like a very genuine, honest, truthful kind of thing that we needed to all come and experience and have that. And I know, yeah, like I know even just that moment that Emily sort of acknowledged that there was just that thing, like she acknowledged that moment in Australia, that there was that feeling that people may have had, that that maybe, you know, there was that loss of connection there for a while. I think the fact that she acknowledged that, like from a business point of view and from a just like a leadership point of view, like that's how you build trust with a company. Like if you acknowledge it and then you say like, I kind of made a mistake, or like, and that's what we can do as leaders as well, is like when we've kind of not shown up, like there's an element of saying like, hey, I'm ready, you know, I might not have been there for you. I'm ready and I'm back. And so I think I learn a lot through observation. So I learn a lot just from the way that everything came together, from corporate and feeling that professionalism back, and also from the leadership from Emily and Natalie and and everyone that spoke. Yeah, that was huge for me. That was really important.
Something that I picked up, which is more of a strategy perspective, like a strategic thing if we're looking at marketing and sales and just business process. I'm going to get his last name wrong, but David Zhu, Paul, do you know how to pronounce his last name?
It's David Shung.
Okay, so anyone that is there that was at leadership will understand that every time. So David Zhong is the highest paid doTERRA wellness advocate in the world, and he is double presidential diamond. And what I love is that we have a business of predominantly women, and I am not going to be speaking out of turn to say that with women comes a lot of emotional stories attached to physical action, and we can oftentimes get those two incredibly confused, and what we think is the truth is actually just the meaning that we give to something. And so when David was speaking about how he generates, creates, and supports his business, it is so simple. Like, it's just like you're there and you're like, well, this is really clean and nice. Peppermint, wild orange, like enroll, teach, enroll. Or what was it? Enroll,
Invite.
Enroll, invite, enroll. Like just invite, enroll, wild orange, peppermint. Like so simple. And it's true. And it was this beautiful reminder of, amidst our stories, amidst the turmoil, amidst the vortex and everything that's been happening, in the center of this, the business structure, the commission plan, the actual products remain the same. And it's everything else we bring to it that can either inhibit or positively affect our experience with doTERRA. And I think for a lot of us, like, we have to get the razor out and like shave a lot of stuff off us that maybe we've, you know, packed on over the last few years, and get down to, I'm not even going to say get down to basics, but like really get clear on the strategy of the business, and get clear on what our stories are that are holding us back from that as well. He was a standout for me, and I absolutely loved hearing him speak about his business.
It's amazing, you know, because I think when we experience a period of, you know, really serious growth, like we all most of us here have been through that period, and then we also have the period when it was, you know, slower and not like that. And by the way, all businesses have their normal cycles. All serious businesses that last long term, you know, like decades, have had loss-making years. Okay, they didn't all have net profit every single year. So, you know, hey, kind of news flash, I know, something totally new. But it's okay when things aren't just going perfectly all the time. It's all right. That's normal. But there is this tendency that we have, I think, when things aren't going our way, to maybe throw the baby out with the bathwater and start to think that everything that we did to get us where we got is now no longer useful or relevant. And I think that what I got and walked away from leadership was that nothing could be more further from the truth. And I like Alice's point that to make things clear and clarify. And yes, we maybe need to clarify and simplify, but I also think remember what worked, because what we did actually that worked was that we connected, and I'm throwing out in my mind, I'm throwing out words like pipes and, programmed methodologies for doing this business. But what I think that we did really, really well, no matter what you want to call it, no matter how you want to kind of package it up into some kind of a program, what we all did really, really well was we connected. And then we gave people some kind of an opportunity to have an experience, whether it was a one-to-one or they came to something or we'd sent them something or they came online or whatever the heck it was. So we connected, we offered an experience, we gave them an opportunity to engage with that product. So we presented something that they could enroll if they wanted to, and then we just looked after them. We just took care of them as people that we value in the community. And so, to move away from the prescribed thing and to simplify and clarify, what if we just did that and we just got back to connecting with people and we just got back to giving people an opportunity to have an experience? Because when we do enough of that, everything seems to go really well. Everything seems to flow naturally after that. We kind of know what to do next, but we get, kind of starry-eyed by watching the new unicorn and how they've done whatever they've done, and think, oh, I have to do it like that. I've got to be like that. I've got to show up where they show up. I've got to use the platforms they're on. I've got to do all this. And the more and more I've tried to compare myself and to create, success in this business doing someone else's model, the further away I get from it. Success, that is. And when I return to what I know and what I can do, I mean, Vanessa and I, we've got 30-something enrollments in the last 2 months, and like Alice said, back at action and doing it. When I just do what I know how to do, it seems to work really well. When I try and be Alice, I'll never look as pretty, and I probably won't have the steel trap mind that Alice has. And I say that as an awesome trait that she has. And I don't have to, because doing it my way for me is enough. And Ness doing it her way for her, she's enough. And it seemed to work the first time around. So I don't think I'm going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think I'm just going to simplify and clarify and put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
I just want to put a light on one more thing as well. I remember when I first joined doTERRA, a lot of people said to me, I don't know if this can work for me. I'm not a crunchy blonde-haired yogi living on the beach type of thing, like there was a lot of us back then. And one of the amazing things that events like this gives you a little bit of clarity on is we're actually a really small minority, to be really honest. Like, it's such an incredibly diverse community of people of all ages, from 18 to, gosh, I don't know, like 75 maybe, in leadership ranks, which is just so amazing, who are showing up. Like, there are people actually in their 70s who are showing up for these leadership events, who have been coming since we arrived in Australia. And I see that as just phenomenal. And someone's just popped Tracy McMahon's name in the chat box. Something that something that I recognized is that there's a lot of different models of faith and a lot of different cultural beliefs that we see within wellness advocates, that we know wellness advocates have, whether we know them personally and we know they are of a certain faith or of a certain belief system or of a certain culture, etc. But that we can have somebody like a founder, like Emily, up on stage as she presented in the breakout rooms, and then have somebody who has a background within a different belief system like Tracy McMahon get up immediately after her, and both can bring value to the stage, and that everybody is welcome. And it's all ethnicities, all, ages, such a diverse, incredible community, and making things work in their own fashion. And that to me is so fantastic. And it's just one of those things that highlights how important it is to show up as ourselves in whatever way we decide to share. So whether that's online or face-to-face or a mix of the two, as long as we're actually doing the things, is that we really do attract people who align with who we are. And again, Paul, like you said, you know, you found your way to do business, which I know you've spoken about on other Becoming Influential podcasts, that you tried the social media thing, and, you know, face-to-face is your zone of genius. You love getting into those spaces, and for other people, it's a lot different. And you attract people to you because of that personable way that you connect with them in that live environment. And I mean, there's not many men I know that could do baby shows, seriously. I would suffer so badly, and you make it work. And I just love the diversity within this community. And we have to have that diversity. Like, we can't be successful if 100% of us were like crunchy yogis. You know what I mean?
It's true. And, you know, like, part of our mandate with Becoming Influential, this chat show, is that we want to hear from and highlight and see everybody. And I really, you know, want to make sure that we know that, and we let people know that this is a place for everybody. You know, it doesn't really matter whether you're, you know, tall, short, thin, large, whatever the socially acceptable word is for the opposite of thin these days is, because I've lost track of it. You know, blonde, blue-eyed, you know, brunette, curly hair, straight hair, you know, Christian, Muslim, I don't mind. This is a place for everybody. And that's what we really want to represent here, and make everyone aware of the fact that there's a place here and there's a way to succeed here, because everybody that's all of those things all has a community, all have people around them that can be touched by, you know, what we do, and touched by what we have to share. So it's really super important we do that. So Chantal, Adish, Santoshi, Alice, thanks so much for joining us and sharing generously for the benefit of our wider community. To all of you listening out there, thanks so much for tuning in to Becoming Influential, the chat show for modern marketers, and look forward to you guys joining us on our next episode, where we're going to be having some real fun, talking about all things recognition and edification as a methodology to create community, really. So we're going to be hitting that up with some special guests that we've got planned for you for next month. So stay tuned for that, and hang about for us for just one sec.